This podcast was brought to you by Business Radio, powered by Wharton, originally airing on SiriusXM.
From the campus of the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School.
This is Dr. Dawn on Careers. Welcome to Dr. Dawn on Careers on SiriusXM, channel 132. I'm Dr. Dawn Graham. I am your host for the next hour, and we are live if it's Thursday noon Eastern at 844-942-7866. I'm the career director for the executive MBAs at the Wharton School. I'm also a licensed psychologist, former corporate recruiter, and author of the book Switchers: How Smart Professionals Change Careers and Seize Success. We are here with Dana and Dion, who make this show sound fantastic every single week, and we are live in studio if it's Thursday noon Eastern, 844-942-7866, and we have a fabulous guest today. So if you have any career and job search questions, today is the day to give us a call right now, 844-942-7866. But first, what's going on in the news? So interestingly, we've heard a lot about people returning to the office and some companies trying to do the remote thing and some companies doing some type of hybrid arrangement where employees come back maybe 2 days a week. But what are the implications of all of this? Well, research by MIT indicates that remote workers may end up getting lower performance evaluations, smaller raises, and fewer promotions than their colleagues in the office. Why? The out of sight, out of mind, this passive FaceTime, because remote workers will just suffer from the sheer fact that they're not being seen. And those who are in the office, seen working, and they're in their regular hours, are going to appear more committed than their counterparts at home. Now, what do you think of this research? Have you had experience working remotely pre-pandemic? Have you experienced this? Do you think that it does impact your ability to get promoted, get on the great projects, or even just get information that is being passed around informally in the office, which could certainly help your career? What are your thoughts? I know a lot of people want to do some type of hybrid arrangement, but will it impact your future career success? We want to hear from you. 844-942-7866. Let us know what you're thinking and what your company is doing to make this work. 844-942-7866. This is Dr. Dawn on Careers, and we are taking your career questions and job search questions all hour. And to help us with that, we have a fantastic guest. I'm so excited that he is on the show. Mark Anthony Dyson is the founder of the award-winning blog and podcast, The Voice of Job Seekers. A prolific writer, speaker, and podcaster, Mark is always hacking and reimagining the modern job search. He is the author of the ebook 421 Modern Job Search Tips 2021 and has been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Fast Company, NPR, LinkedIn, and many other places. He was recognized as one of JobScan's top job search experts, and we are so excited to be speaking with him today. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you for having me. I'm really going to find a lot of fun in this.
I think I could spend most of the show talking about all of your awards and achievements. And I just go to your webpage and I was like, wow, how do I even distill this down? But the benefit, of course, is to our listeners who are, many of them in a job search, many of them contemplating their career post-pandemic, many of them thinking maybe this is a good time to make a switch, and many others who maybe were impacted by the pandemic and still looking to get back into the job search. So first off, congratulations on all of your success. And what I love about you, Mark, is that you have a mission. A lot of people out there with a business, they don't really have a formed mission. And I love that you say, I hack and reimagine the job search process. So what does that mean exactly, and how does that benefit your clients?
These days, I don't do a lot of client work except through the little secret job club that I have in my newsletter that I do every summer for about 4 months. And I help people do group mostly. And then there's some one-on-one that I do. But when I did take clients, what often is most important is to be able to parse the chaff from the wheat, so to speak. In other words, you want to get the best, you want to know what the worst is, and even what people think is the best is not always the best to present to that particular employer. And people don't normally single out their opportunity to specific employers. In fact, many of them don't do what we often suggest, is to have a target list and to get companies and try to find insiders in that company and get the referral, get hired is the most likely successful situation that possibly be in. Most people are spraying and praying and thinking that the numbers game from 1999 when Career Builder and Monster were around, and it was a valid game that you play. These days, not so much. The person you know and people you get to know over time are going to be your best referrals, even if they're not directly involved. In other words, people who are second and third connections as well. You even look at LinkedIn, or maybe people who know someone can introduce you to someone that can introduce you to someone else. It's likely where the gold is. Once you get past a lot of that, and people are willing to be patient and resilient and persevere, they can get through it. And if they're working over time, as I always say, job search is a lifestyle. It's not something that's seasonal. You don't want it to be seasonal. You want it to be active and dynamic and something that's going to be ongoing, like you've talked about in your book. I think people get the most out of it and get most out of coaching when there's a coach or at least someone facilitating a direction that helps them to go deep and be able to use a few materials or a few strategies to help them go deep and get down to with someone.
It's funny because you're right. That obviously 20 years ago, the online job search was the way to go. It was new. It was slightly easier because you didn't have to mail your resume in, and not everybody was doing it, so you stood out a little. But the funny thing is, for the last 10 years, we've heard all of these big companies saying, hey, post with us, we can get you thousands of resumes and all of this. But I think what the challenge has become now, Mark, is now I just saw an advertisement for a company that says, do you get thousands of resumes? Let us help you narrow this down. But that is the problem, right? That's exactly what happened. We made it so easy to apply to jobs that everybody applies because it's a one-click process, thinking that, hey, I've got a good shot at this. But then the employer on the other side is thinking, I can't possibly go through thousands of resumes, so I have to create a way to narrow those down, which unfortunately weeds out a lot of people who are probably qualified. And in the end, the process isn't working any longer. And I think that's what people need to realize, is that may have worked once, and it did, but now not so much, right?
Can you believe it's 2021, and for the last, as far as I can remember, the last 11, 12, 13 years, we've been saying that the job board game is over as far as getting success, and that only limited number of jobs are actually on job boards. And the way that people actually find the jobs of their dreams is really through other people and people who know other people that have it. But people don't like it. It's a lot of work. It's some work and some work over a period of time to be able to do that. And there's some people that are good at it, but most people aren't willing to still risk and play the numbers, which is really odd. And 11 years later, we've been crying, don't do that, don't do that. People are still doing that and passing it on to the next generation.
And I'm gonna give people the benefit of the doubt for just a second, because I think the challenge people have is that the job search that we talk about around networking and using your second level contacts and building a group of people who can help you get insight into those companies who are hiring for what you do. People find that very ambiguous. And you're right, they don't know how to do it. And it seems so much easier and straightforward to say, okay, upload resume, upload cover letter, click send, and I'm done. And so I think people who even want to do the networking route and recognize its value are struggling because they think, I don't even know how to start this. There's no...
When people are waiting for other people to get back with them and say, hey, could you help me get in contact with this person? A lot of times it takes a couple of days. Sometimes it takes a few weeks. And inside that person's head, they're thinking, well, by that amount of time I'm waiting, I can apply to be 50, 100 jobs online, and I might have a better shot. instead of following up with the person who actually might be busy and might be able to contact that person right away. But the networking part is more work. It is more time consuming. It takes some perseverance. It takes some resilience. But the online job thing is very easy versus having faith versus not having faith. And by not having faith, you're going to do the things that are very easy, very quick to do because you want results right now. But having faith is putting that faith to work and doing that particular process over and over again. That takes more time and more personal involvement in space.
It does. And I want to get into the kind of details about how to do that. And if you're struggling with this, give us a call, 844-942-7866. If it's Thursday, noon Eastern, we're live, SiriusXM 132. This is Dr. Dawn on Careers. We're so excited to have Mark Anthony Dyson here, who is a job seeker advocate and founder of the award-winning blog and podcast, The Voice of Job Seekers, and author of the ebook 421 Modern Job Search Tips 2021. So if you're in a job search or you're applying online and you're not getting any traction, we want to hear from you. 844-942-7866. And something that's interesting, Mark, and I'm just going to lift the curtain because I think it's really demoralizing to apply to a lot of jobs and not get a response. But what I'm hearing from many people I'm connected with in the industry, including job seekers, is that companies right now are moving people around more than they're hiring, meaning that a lot of the jobs that are posted are actually almost pre-filled. They have an identified candidate. They may put it up there because they need to go through the legal steps, but they really already know who they're going to hire. And the bummer about this is that you may be great and you may be qualified, but you probably don't have a shot. And worse, a lot of these companies will still do a pre-interview because they have to check that box. So you're feeling like, wow, I did great on the interview. This is going to go well, only to lose to the internal candidate, which you really had no shot in the first place.
Yeah, and I think what's even sadder now is that you don't get to see a person for the most part. And a lot of institutions and businesses have implemented the video interview part of it, where that first, they may have a phone interview where they're being told what to do next, which really isn't an interview, but they count it as an interview. Then you get to go do a video interview, which is basically automated as AI driven. So they're going to go and they'll get an email saying that, hey, this is what you do next, do it soon so that we can sure to put you up as and compare you to other candidates, blah, blah, blah. So this person they'll go do the video interview without having talked to anyone. They just follow the instructions. They may get some practice sessions, and then they're face to face with an avatar. And they answer whatever questions that are involved, and then they go ahead and after they're done, they close it out. They may get an automated email saying, thank you for participating, blah, blah, blah. But after that, there's often silence, and many times companies are rejecting them very easily at that point. And they haven't, and so the job seeker feels, hey, wait a second, I feel like I didn't get a chance to really present myself. I just answered some questions to a machine. And that's even more demoralizing. And I could see why a few people may feel like, man, I can't take this after going through that a few times.
Yeah, I have to say, I definitely have opinions. Dion knows I have opinions, but I definitely have a strong opinion on the one-way video interview. And anybody who's done that out there, which is essentially, as Mark was explaining, you get a link and you have to record your answers, and the recorded answers goes where, I don't know. How they protect your privacy, are they storing this on their system? That's a big concern for me. The fact that not all of us are very comfortable in front of the video camera and just don't present ourselves the best from that medium. Or maybe you don't have the right equipment at home. Everybody has a studio set up, so you could have some technical difficulties, which should not be factored into any of these decisions. But we're humans, and humans are biased, and how can it not be? I have to say, not a fan of the one-way video. I've never done one, but I've had clients who've done them. And not only is it really feels demoralizing, But it also takes a lot longer because if you do have the opportunity to redo your answer, something that could have been a 20-minute, 25-minute phone call now it takes 3 hours because you're redoing it. You're like, oh, I don't like how my face looked, or oh, I don't like that I so many times.
Yeah, some of them give a time limit as to how much time you can actually take. They'll give you some practice rounds, but then you're timed in giving the answer. And you say you have 3 minutes or 2 minutes to get this answer. When you're used to elaborating it, you're trying to tell yourself, relax. But in the meantime, that clock is ticking. And for a lot of people who are not prepared to do video interviews, it takes you about a half a minute to really get rolling with the answers that are going to make sense to the employer, so you think. But ultimately, people, they want you to turn it on and turn it off very quickly, which is very unfair, especially if you're not used to the camera and much less used to talking to an avatar.
Yeah, 844-942-7866. You're listening to Business Radio, SiriusXM 132. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Graham. We're here with Mark Anthony Dyson, who is a career expert and founder of the Voice of Job Seekers, here today answering all your career questions. Hey, I would love to hear from a recruiter or a company who uses the video interview, and I'd love to hear what happens on the other side. So if you're listening and you've done that, your job is to sit there and review those videos and store them and organize them and where they go and who watches them, and is this something that everybody gets into the conference room on a Friday and goes through them? What is this? 844-942-7866. Or if you've done a one-way video interview as a candidate, we'd love to hear about your experience with that. 844-942-7866. If it's Thursday, noon Eastern, we are live right now on SiriusXM 132. Mark, you said something earlier, and I know you also have this in your LinkedIn profile, and I thought it's such a great line that the job search is a lifestyle now. And I want to elaborate on that because I think that is so profound, and I think we all need to look at it that way. It's not something that you do every 5 years anymore. It's something that you kind of have to think about all the time. So what does that mean?
For me, it was funny because whether it's a revelation from God or from the Blues Brothers movie, I thought that in writing, I wrote a post where that just came out. And it was something that I truly believe that at that particular point now, that job search is has to be a part of our lifestyle. If it's done, it's interwoven in every interaction, every way we need to think about our lives and our life plans going forward. All these things and the things that we have available to do that are right there. Our phone is a very powerful computer, and we can do all training we want through that phone. People are taking college courses right now who are using their phone only. There are people who are writing books on their phone only. Everything is a utility knife, so to speak. It can speak to everything that you possibly can need in order for you to develop your career. While you're waiting in line, while you're waiting for someone, while you're waiting in the doctor's office, you could be developing your career. And it would behoove you to do so because that's what the competition is doing now. The competition for mostly everybody, since it's so thick, is either hard because there's too few jobs or because there's so many people who are looking for jobs. There's plenty of jobs. There's now a lot of competition. So either way, you have to be diligent in building that career layer by layer. Maybe you need to take small steps, which is okay. It's okay to go ahead and look for different ways to build. Maybe it may need to be through YouTube or taking a Udemy course or taking a Wharton business course online, whatever it takes, or listening to a podcast. Whatever that tool is, you're adding small little layers, and eventually that builds the right kind of ammunition and things you need to build a career that's going to last you and keep a steady stream of opportunities coming to you.
So let's talk about this idea of planting seeds, because I think this is what you're talking about, Mark. And I love this idea around you need to be thinking about this all the time. So even if you're in a job right now and you have no plans to leave, the idea of taking a course online or meeting new people or maybe taking a leadership role in your community in some form or fashion. A lot of people don't think about that as career development per se, but it really is because it's expanding your network, it's expanding your knowledge. Anytime you're learning, whether it's reading a book outside of your specialty or maybe you attend an event with your spouse that's in a different industry, you're learning things that help you put new information together and make new connections. And I think it's just about being intentional about looking at these as opportunities versus just, all right, I'm going to tag along with my spouse and eat the appetizers, but not pay attention.
Yeah, it is planting seeds. So what makes it grow is your curiosity. Your curiosity is the water to making those seeds grow. So you have to wonder when you're hearing murmurs about something changing your industry, you have to wonder what that is and why are certain people moving. We hear the advice all the time in the career space about people who are involved in their industry associations and organizations. You get to see firsthand people moving and you get to find out why. So even if you are involved once a quarter and that kind of thing, and you're sharing about people moving, that should concern you that people are also moving past you if you're not as curious. So I think that people can use that curiosity to start at least venturing out. If you find out something that's not for you, you have time to change. What would you rather do? Try to get the pulse of the industry, what it's going to 2 years from now when you may need a change, or find out when you'll find that your company is handing it exit letters. So I think everybody prefers to be ahead of the curve. In fact, if you're not participating in building small layers during any course of a year, you're light years out of the game. And it takes a while, just like the sedentary person who hasn't had any activity at all. It takes them a while to get motivated to get going. They may get going, but it's taking them a while. When we talk about job search and being sedentary in that sense, you're talking about somebody who's possibly not going to have their bills paid and to go forward. We could talk about the other financial things, the way you should have money saved and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, most people, it takes them a while to get that job search going. But if you have built layers throughout, you're ready to go as soon as you share rumors. It may not even apply to you, but at least you're ready.
And it gives you the freedom. I think that if you decide you want to make a change, you've already laid that foundation. And sometimes you're right, we don't get that choice. Companies, industries change and our employment status changes. But even if that's not the case, having those options, it feels like a good thing because you're like, I'm not stuck. And I think feeling stuck is the worst feeling in the world for many people. And so just that idea of I could make a move if I wanted to is something that I think brings a lot of peace to people in the employment situation. Hey, 844-942-7866. Have you heard MIT is doing some research around what's happening as we return to the office? And they're finding that remote workers may end up getting lower performance evaluations, smaller raises, and fewer promotions than their colleagues in the office due to the simple out of sight, out of mind. And certainly the informal communication process that happens in the office, you're going to miss out on that if you're not in the meetings with other people. So what are you thinking? Are you thinking you're going to be working a hybrid situation? Are you worried about how that might impact your future at the company? Let us know. 844-942-7866. We are excited to be here with Mark Anthony Dyson, who is a career expert, and he is on a mission. He hacks and reimagines the job search process and loves helping unemployed, underemployed, and underappreciated find jobs and have people notice you. So if you're feeling like you want a little inspiration or even a little technical knowledge around your resume, LinkedIn, or your job search process, we want to hear from you. 844-942-7866. You're listening to Dr. Dawn on Careers on SiriusXM 132. And I don't know how the time has flown, Dion, but I think it's time for our pre-break quiz. There is a quiz, and it has to do with movies. And I know, Dion, you and I seem to have a different library when it comes to movies. Although I would venture to say that everybody has seen Star Wars except for you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I know, but so I'm wondering if it's me or if it's you. And I'm
It's
just
not.
All right, here it is. What do the movies Silence of the Lambs, which you've had to have
Seen that.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Starring Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. And the movie The Burbs with Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher. Now, you probably haven't seen that one.
No.
It's a cult
I almost
classic.
thought you said The Birds,
No,
the Alfred
not
Hitchcock
Alfred
movie.
Hitchcock.
I
Have
have
you-
seen that.
You've
Yeah.
seen
I
that?
saw both of them.
Really? Nice. All right. It's not the movie, but I'm glad you've seen it. So, The Burbs, 80s movie, Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, and Silence of the Lambs. They have something in common. If you think you know, give us a call at 844-942-7866. You're listening to Dr. Dawn on Careers on SiriusXM 132, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Dr. Dawn on Careers.
On Business Radio.
Welcome back to Dr. Dawn on Careers, SiriusXM, channel 132. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Graham. If you want to find out what's up and coming on the show, you can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Dawn Graham, because we're always posting about our exciting guests and topics. So if it's Thursday, noon Eastern, guess what? We are live in studio at 844-942-7866. And I think we just have to get the torture over with. And Dion.
Oh, boy.
I know. So I'm glad you saw Silence of the Lambs. That gives you at least a little bit of a clue. But
Sure it does.
yeah. What does that have in common with the movie The Burbs, which stars Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher and Bruce Dern? There's a lot of famous people. Corey Feldman is. I mean, these are.
You were a big Corey Feldman.
No, I
you
wasn't.
You were
No.
a fan of the Coreys?
No, I wasn't, because I was. Don't forget, I was a hair band fanatic. So they maybe were a little too preppy for me.
Yeah, that's not the same person.
Yeah, no. So I love the movies. You know that.
I've never seen that. Please.
They've been in a lot of movies
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
License to Drive. They've
No.
been in, what was that vampire movie with Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, I'm sure I didn't see that either.
No, you had Lost Boys. You had to see
No.
Lost Boys.
Didn't see that either.
What are you doing in the 80s, Dion?
I was in
Learning to walk.
Exactly. I was in the 80s for what, 6 years?
All right, fair enough.
All right, these two movies, they were set in the same place, like suburb of city in Virginia, I think.
In Virginia.
Because I think Silence of the Lambs in Virginia.
Because of the FBI.
Yeah.
Because of Quantico.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
But, okay, I see your logic. It makes sense. If you haven't seen The Burbs, this is going to be a hard one. Dana, have you seen The Burbs? I'm going to guess no.
I haven't seen either of these movies.
Oh my
This is
God.
younger than I am.
My guess was going to be that they take place in the same place. So we are just striking out here.
Look, me and Dana, I feel like we should get a ding because we have the same answer. We haven't talked.
Is this a new thing? After 6 years, you guys are going to have a ding because you have the same answer?
Yes.
I love
Okay, I'm gonna say thumbs down on that. But okay, Mark, you don't have to play if you don't want to. But have you seen The Burbs? Have you seen at least Silence of the Lambs? Dana, I have to.
Both those movies are a long time ago.
Yeah, they are. All right, fair.
I have a wild guess.
All right, but now that you just called me old, but
I feel
okay.
like I feel like he's probably going to be
No,
right
I'm
for some
old.
reason.
you basically just called me out on air.
Goes for a while. I'm going to guess both movies had something to do with the basement, but other than that,
Ooh. Yeah, no, that is true. There was a basement in both movies.
I love when you try to spin.
plot was surrounding what was going on in the basement, but I don't think that would be particularly it.
No, it wasn't it, but I think that deserves a ding, Dion, because that's at least a true statement.
And it goes with your type of answer where it's just like something random.
No, this is random. This is actually this is true.
They're always true. That doesn't mean it's not random.
No, they're not always like sometimes more than one answer.
Yeah, there's that.
But this is Okay, here it is. It's Darla. Now, who is Darla? Darla is a toy poodle who played Queenie in The Burbs, and she played Buffalo Bill's small white dog in The Silence of the Lambs.
Who would have
And that's not random? Buffalo Bill's dog?
All right, what's
Really?
I was gonna give you another shot, Dion. What was the dog's name in Silence of the Lambs?
Uh,
God, he says it all the time.
I remember him saying it puts the lotion on its skin. I remember the name of the dog.
All right, Mark. Come on.
Yeah.
What's no, Mark's? Wait, like I thought we were talking about careers here. I'll give you another hint. Gollum says it a lot in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, never saw that.
Oh my God.
I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan.
Oh my
so-
gosh.
I feel like the same people that saw Star Wars saw that, and I'm not either of those people.
All right. I'm feeling like I live a life that like nobody understands.
No, look, I know that most people have seen these movies. I know I'm different. It's just what it is.
Yeah, but between you, Mark, and Dana, I'm the oddball out here.
There is that.
Oh well. The dog's name was Precious.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See. All right. I guess you should just get back to career stuff because I'm.
Strike it out here.
Yeah, this is not going anywhere good. 844-942-7866. You can always count on us for fun trivia, which we loosely tie to the career topic by saying if you're looking for interesting conversations in your networking, maybe you can use this, but
Don't.
so we are so excited to be here with Mark Anthony Dyson, who is a career expert. He is founder of the award-winning blog and podcast, The Voice of Job Seekers, prolific writer, speaker, and podcaster. Mark is on a mission to hack and reimagine the modern job search. And Mark, where can people follow you, read your articles, see your podcast, and all of that good stuff after the...
The Voice of Job Seekers is a great place, thevoiceofjobseekers.com. Also, if you find me on LinkedIn, I'm there hanging out a lot.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You do LinkedIn Live, so you are there a lot. Definitely you want to follow Mark if you're in a job search or if you just want to create some career insurance around your long-term career. 844-942-7866. What do you think about returning to the office? And is it going to create a situation where people in the office get more raises, promotions, and more projects because they are in the office versus being remote? What do you think? 844-942-7866. So, of course, since we're doing this show in Philadelphia, Mark, I have to look at one of your articles that said, channel your inner Rocky to land the job.
Wow, that was a long time ago, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask Dion if he actually saw that movie.
Of course I saw Rocky.
Oh, of
I mean,
course.
I tapped out around Rocky Balboa. That wasn't that good. 5 wasn't great either.
See, this is why Dion and I, we just really don't know each other. Like, I don't know who you are. How you can know that much about Rocky, but not about Silence of the Lambs.
Because Rocky was a better movie.
No, I know I'm ticking off a lot of people in Philly right now, but
There's going to be a riot outside,
I know.
outside the studio.
we digress. So tell us about how you should train as if you're in a boxing match, Mark, for your job search.
Yes, I think probably the key these days is that a lot of punches are going to be thrown at you in the form of silence, and you've got to be willing to weather those punches and avoid them if you possibly can, but at least endure and push through them. I think there was time when the Thriller Manila where Muhammad Ali and George Foreman were fighting in that particular sense, in the way that George Foreman was trying to throw all the punches he possibly can, and Muhammad Ali baited him until he got worn down, and then he was able to beat him in the 8th round. And I think a lot of times job seekers should be able to take those punches, but you got to avoid them too, and avoid getting hit. And sometimes those hits are in forms of silence, so it's not the fact that you're getting rejection, but the silence is rejection if you're not getting anything going on at all. If you're active, you can actually bait your network, as we talked about before, and being active and digging deep, and that way you can come out on the other side.
I love it. I love the energy that analogy creates, that kind of move in, you're working it and ducking and all that stuff, because I do think that's a lot of what the job search is. Let's face it, just like you will in a boxing match, you're probably going to get hit, and in a job search, you're probably going to get rejected. Things aren't going to go well. And you have to expect all of that, yet be able to dust yourself off and get up and get back in there for another round. And I think that's what makes the job search so difficult and so draining is that you have to be ready for that. But sometimes when you set your expectations to know that's going to be part of the race or part of the situation, that can really change your perspective. So I loved that analogy. And I think we need to go to a mailbag. Dana, I think we have a mailbag.
You've got mail.
Yeah, Nolan in Connecticut says, Dear Dr. Don, I'm really struggling here. As an older worker, 61, I feel like I can't catch a break in the job search. While I'm highly skilled in operations and supply chain, active in nonprofit board, and have a history of continuous education, I feel like I continue to get passed over for younger candidates. Having managed my money well, I'm pretty flexible in compensation. So what am I doing wrong?
Ooh, that's a good one. Thank you, Dana. So just to recap, Nolan is an older job worker, and it sounds like experiencing some maybe age bias in the job search. And it's interesting because even though he's willing to take less money or maybe even a job that's at a lower level, not getting any love from the employers. Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would probably would want to know some of his activity and what he's been doing where he feels like he's not catching a break. That would be an interesting conversation. But more than likely, if you've been in the field a long time, at 60, I think part of the challenge is some of the people you may know may have retired or may have moved on from their lives. So when you're not if you're not feeding the networking machine, you're not getting to know a lot of people. So he may feel like he's doing it alone. And I know a lot of older people who do it alone, and you just can't do it alone. And there's ways that you can reach out to your network and make it and help it and feed it in such a way that it actually will work for you. But I think in certain industries, and every industry has its own character, I think. There are some that work through a lot of networking. Some people just get the job because that they have the skills that the employer needs. That's where a lot of the sweet spot will have to come in as well, as you knowing what the employer needs. I say, try to beat the prescription to the employer's job description. And you have to be really keen and really understand what you're looking at and what they're asking for, and ask yourself, can you really fulfill those needs? And then if you don't, you can't be too dormant and trying to get what you need to at least know what the industry needs for you to get hired again.
Yeah, I love it. Be the prescription to the job description. I love stuff like that. So in Nolan's case, because I think a lot of people do this, we as people who are experienced in the workforce really get to know what we like to do and what we don't like to do. And some people really like doing the roll up your sleeves tactical, and they don't want to move on to become a director or VP and get out of the day-to-day. And so maybe Nolan wants to do the manager level job, even though he's qualified to do a director level job and willing to take the money that is appropriate for that. But how can somebody convince an employer who's going to be biased that, oh, you're going to get bored or you're going to leave us for a place that pays you more or whatever? How can they convince them that, no, you know what? I've spent 40 years working. I know what I love to do. And this is it, and this is what I want to do, even though I could do a lot more.
Yeah, I think one of the things that he could possibly do, depending upon if work requires an apprenticeship, is try to be a mentor to some of the up-and-comers who are likely to get those jobs, so that you can go back and say, hey, I trained X, Y, and Z. He moved on here, and also be a resource as far as to the younger and to people who are looking for those skills, but may need some direction of some sort. But if you're a resource and you're the one that's training a lot of these people, especially the younger people, then you can make a case that you're teaching them what is most relevant and that you could be useful in some kind of way. I've seen that actually happen. And in fact, they were beginning to ask this person, because he had some technical knowledge and he was up on some of the most relevant skills that were needed. They asked him to train on a contract basis. And he was able to get a contract, got a great contract, and then eventually he became a part of their staff. And I think that if you're a resource and you have something to leverage, then you can make a case to other employers that at least reach out to individual employers or work your way through those second and third contacts we talked about, and to get those introductions that could make a difference in a company's well-being.
Yeah, I think there's two really important things there that you said, Mark. The first one being that obviously your network. If you have an insider saying to the hiring manager, that, hey, look, I know this person certainly can do a lot more, but this is where their heart is, this is where their passion is, and they're going to come in and do a great job. That can be incredibly helpful. And I know a lot of people are thinking, of course, I don't have that because duh, I would use it. But that's exactly what you've been talking about, is building that. And it does take time and it does take investment. And you do need to do it consistently, and not just when you need a job, but when you are in a career and things are going swimmingly. So I do think that is part of the message you're saying when you talk about job search as a lifestyle. And I think the other thing that's really important of what you said, Mark, is doing things that other people aren't doing. So maybe it is looking at a contract job or a temporary job that you can get your foot in the door, which in my opinion is the hardest part of the job search, is even to just get a conversation with somebody who's a decision maker. And even if it's a 2-week gig or 2-month gig, you are basically setting yourself up for a trial where they can see you shine, you can build relationships, you can see what other opportunities are in the company. So even though I know that's not what a lot of people want as the ultimate goal, doing that, because other people are probably not doing it, is going to be putting you at the front of the line when they are ready to hire someone.
Yeah, I think what you said, relationship, and that's where a lot of people tend to fall off. And relationships do take time. They take an investment, and it takes a certain amount of personal investment. When you are able to show that you have other than professional commonalities, but those times when there is a little small talk and there is something that you like about someone, and that maybe there's something you look forward to about someone, you can create that. And again, it doesn't have to be a creepy, stalking kind of thing. But again, over time, if you're building lots of those, a few of those will emerge to be personal, and they'll think of you first because they liked you, and that you've exerted some personality along the way, and that you've been helpful. You've been a resource. All those things add up positively.
844-942-7866. You're listening to Dr. Dawn on Career, SiriusXM 132 if it's Thursday noon Eastern. We are live right now in studio at 844-942-7866. Nolan in Connecticut, I want to thank you for your mailbag question. Of course, if you have one, you can send it to me on social media. We are here with Mark Anthony Dyson, who is a career expert, talking all about how to advocate for job seekers. And there's something you write about, Mark, that I love, and it's called social proof. And it's this idea that you're out there, maybe on social media, maybe you blog, maybe you do videos, maybe you comment on others or in certain groups where there are industry leaders in your area. But I do think this has become a really important thing. And it pains me to think now there's yet one more thing job seekers need to do to get ahead of the competition. But unfortunately, this is the age we live in, and employers want to know that you're a thought leader in your industry and that you have a passion for your industry. And the way we often show this is what we do online. So can you talk more about how people can use that social proof as a way to really get ahead in the job search?
There's nothing that proves your expertise and your abilities more is that you're able to go deep about it over a period of time. I'll take my writing, for instance. I've amassed probably over 700 articles at this particular point. People don't have any problem finding me. I don't have any problem showing on those first couple of pages of Google. People find me and even find things I've written 10 years ago. Just what you mentioned about channeling your inner Rocky, I wrote that years ago. I've forgotten about that article. But all that to say is that if you have that kind of knowledge, I thought it was a no-brainer at the time that if I'm creating something that it has meaning, that the core of it is not going to change. Like networking has been around forever. Carnegie wrote a book about it 2, 3, 4 generations ago, and we're still talking about it. Those are things that people will ultimately find. And now that we're in an age where Googling and researching is a regular, whether you're a novice or you're a professional or you're a consultant. That's something that lasts forever. And people do things because they want to quick hit. They want to get known fast. And it just takes time and effort. But again, you're doing something that if it's going to be something somebody will find later, it's only going to add up and benefit you down the line.
And you don't have to be the premier expert in the industry either. I think that's what prevents a lot of people from posting online is because they feel like there's people who know more about this than me. And there's always going to be people who know more about it than you. But I feel like, especially for career switchers, the ability to post online, get involved in active groups on places like LinkedIn, the ability to, depending on your profession, make YouTube videos. It's an opportunity that we didn't have 20 years ago. And unfortunately, because the competition is what it is these days, we don't have the luxury of not participating in some way. And I'm not saying you have to spend your life on every social media platform. And my personal philosophy is pick two that really interested in, dedicated to, and where your followers or your audience would be. For many, that would be LinkedIn and maybe something else, and really invest in it.
Yeah, I think I started writing online when I was 49 years old. 49.
That doesn't help us because we don't know how old you are now, but
I am 60.
that's a
I'm-
lie. You can't
I'm-
be.
I am 60 years old. I'm a pure baby boomer, the last of the baby boomers. All that to say is that people think that age has something to do with it when age really doesn't have anything to do with it. And it's easy to check me, right? You can go back and look at, I started the Voice of Job Seekers when I was 50 years old. July 13th. 2011 is when I started the Voice of Job Seekers. So you have my body of work there. I was writing online before then because I had a blog before then and I didn't like it, but I got a Twitter message that somebody read my article and said, "Thank you for being the voice of job seekers." I said,
There it is.
I think that was it. And at that moment, I remember getting the URL that same day and start to figure out what does that look like? And I start writing. And that's where, and I haven't stopped writing since. And I think I've always been a writer, but I truly went after it at that moment. So that I decided, hey, I can go in this direction. And
Yeah.
it was told to me by somebody else. And I think that's the way people need to, if people can just wrap their eyes around their arms and their head around one single thing, whether it's going to be these days, video could be the new blog in a sense, and in a lot of ways it is. And to do that and do it consistently and be willing to engage with people and be able to put what they know out there and get the feedback. And sometimes maybe you have to change your mind, but it is a great journey to follow, and I've been truly fulfilled by it professionally like no other time.
I love it. Love it. Great way to end the show. Find what works for you. Ignore the things out there that try to bring you down. It's not about age. It's not about your expertise. You find what works for you and you do it. Mark Anthony Dyson, we are so excited to have had you on the show today. He is the founder and CEO of the Voice of Job Seekers. Look him up on LinkedIn and definitely follow him. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, thank you to Dion and Dana and all of our listeners. We are here for you live every Thursday at noon Eastern to take all of your job search and career questions on SiriusXM channel 132. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Graham. If you want more information about me, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn or Twitter at Dr. Dawn Graham. We've loved being with you this week, and we will see you next time.
For more insight from Business Radio, please visit businessradio.wharton.upenn.edu.